Well, I hope you're ready for another saint story. Remember last week we were talking about how the saints were superheroes. Super because they were filled with God's grace. Heroes because they lived a heroic life of virtue. And today we're going to learn a little bit more about one of those saints, a saint who never gave up hope, who shows us what it means to live by that virtue of hope. Her name, St. Bridget of Ireland. During Bridget's time, there were many kings in Ireland. Some were important kings and others were called lesser kings. Bridget's father was a lesser king and her mother a slave. Slave girls had to work long, hard hours feeding pigs, churning butter, grinding corn, and washing the feet of guests. Some slaves had to hold lanterns for hours while their masters ate dinner and visited with friends. This was the world into which St. Bridget was born. There were many mysteries in Bridget's life. On the night Bridget was born, strange lights like flames of fire were seen by people passing by. Servants ran to the little hut thinking it was on fire. This fire, however, was not hot. It was a fire of love and wisdom that came from heaven and seemed to settle into the little baby's heart and soul. 3 figures, like angels, dressed in shiny white clothes, were also seen near the child. Who were these figures that surrounded the baby, the little girl Bridget? Were they really angels? Yes, they were. You can believe in angels. Angels are mentioned at least 300 times in the Bible. They are the very messengers of God, pure spirits that God created. Even before he created the heavens and the earth, he made the angels. And he has given an angel to each and every single one of us. You know what we call those? That's right, guardian angels. Maybe St. Bridget had 3. These heavenly figures baptized the baby and gave her the name Bridget, which means fiery arrow or strong. I'm not sure if the character from Brave was given that name, but maybe she should have been. Throughout her life, Bridget was strong in body, strong in her love for Jesus, and extra strong in her generosity. Many times she was so generous that she would be punished for sharing, but she never gave up hope. Here's another little image of what we're reading. You can see Bridget there at work. As she got older, Bridget worried about her mother working as a slave in a faraway kingdom. She searched for a long time and finally found her working many hours on a dairy farm. Because her mother was sick, Bridget decided to do her work in the dairy farm while her mother rested. The poor people who lived in the area heard about Bridget's love for the sick and hungry. They came to her begging for food. She gave away the master's food, especially the rich, creamy butter. When the butter started to run low, one of the workers reported her. Upon hearing this, the owner and his wife drove their carriage to the dairy to punish Bridget. When they arrived, nothing could have prepared them for the great miracle they were about to witness. The butter bins were filled from wall to wall and floor to ceiling with butter. Never had they seen such abundance. The master became fearful when he saw this wonder. He told Bridget he would give the dairy to her as a gift. But Bridget said she would rather have her mother's freedom. Bridget's father did not believe in the one true God, nor did he believe in generosity. He was the opposite. He had a royal fit each time Bridget gave his possessions away. If a beggar asked Bridget for a slice of meat, she gave him a whole sheep. If asked for a slice of bread, she gave away the whole loaf, with butter too. She gave everything she could find to the hungry, the poor, and the sick. Was Bridget wrong? What did Jesus say? Jesus said, "Whatever you did for one of these least brothers of mine, you did for me." More than once her excuse to her angry father was, "I did it for God." Finally, her father had had enough of her generosity, so he put her in his chariot, and off they rode toward another king's home. "I'm selling you to the King of Leinster," said her father. While he was inside making the sale, Bridget was outside by the carriage. A poor sick man passed by asking for charity. Bridget had no money or food to give him. However, her eyes rested on her father's valuable jeweled sword. She lifted the heavy sword and handed it to the beggar. When Bridget's father saw the sword was missing, he jumped up and down in an angry rage and lifted his hand to strike his daughter. Hearing the shouting, the King of Leinster ran to the carriage. When he heard what Bridget had done, he scolded Bridget's father for being mean to her. "Leave her alone," he said, "for her merit before God is greater than ours." Bridget's father not only lost the sale, but his prize sword as well. There was only one thing left Bridget's father could do. Bridget needed a husband, and her father would find one. He thought if she were married, she could give her husband's things away instead of his. Of course, Bridget turned to God with faith and hope. Help me, please," she prayed. She prayed to God to take away her beauty so no one would marry her. In this way, she could become a nun and do God's work and be married to the Lord Jesus. God answered her prayers. One of her eyes began to swell, growing to twice its normal size. Her father's plan for her marriage was ruined. He gave up in despair and set her free. Now there was no stopping Bridget. She joined a convent and she became a nun. And then God restored her beauty. Remember, children, all things are possible with God. In Ireland, St. Bridget is as important a name as St. Patrick. Her name is written on signs, convents, churches, rivers, and other waterways across the entire country. Although it has been over 1,500 years since she died, Bridget was so loved that people in Ireland still cherish her memory. They celebrate her feast day on February the 1st and recreate the special cross she made from rushes. It is called the Rush Cross. Bridget was the reason thousands of girls became nuns in Ireland. Her words, wisdom, and joyful nature all combined to shoot fiery arrows of love and hope into the hearts and souls of young Irish girls. She provided convents where they could enjoy peace in their vocations. God rewarded Bridget for her generosity, and he will reward you too.